Yo, welcome back to Project Jira. We are here with Marathon episode number 41. And this one's going to be a heavy video for sure. And if you can't tell, the reason for that is if you can see just a little bit in that tiny dinky little screen on the side, it is covering quite heavy topics. Maybe I'll just move it to the side for now, but this is something having to do with severe, intense forms of abuse. Now, what I will say, because of this, I may have to edit. Most likely by the time I upload this video, you will see that below there's an explicit warning in the description that I've already made ahead of time, and I may have pasted it there. Needless to say, it's fair to put some sort of warning, so viewer discretion is advised. For this particular video, we will be discussing very heavy themes of extremely disturbing traumatic abuse. And we won't be going into detail, of course. We'll just be covering the general overview of it without going too further deep into it, because I believe at that point it won't be allowed on YouTube, or at least I don't know how to cover it in a way. I don't have the experience per se to cover these heavy themes. Okay. Now, that being said, it might just be a monetization thing. So if that's the case, I'm definitely not getting monetized, so I can maybe just say whatever I want. What my concern is that not only will they not monetize, they may take down the video content. So if that's the case, I do want to be mindful of that. This is just a warning for people, however, in general, when they're coming in. If you have some baggage, it's best that probably you don't watch this one. So the first thing here, we have probably about 7-8 tabs, and they're all kind of focused on the notions of mistreatment and misbehavior of one person treating another. In this case, we have several Reddit tabs as well as several links to Parrish Miller. And Parrish Miller, of course, founding narcissism and so on and so forth. His website on narcissistic mothers and all that stuff. So we'll get to that in a moment. And I can showcase right here. It's just one of these tabs here on the side here. Characteristics of narcissistic mothers, blah-de-da, and so on and so forth. Okay. So I thought originally that I had been done with the topic of narcissism. I was finished with the topic of domestic abuse and so on and so forth. But as we explore Reddit, other interesting communities have popped up, and you can see not all of them is negative. Most of it isn't. I want to talk about all this stuff here on the side, but you can see all these tabs here having to do with other Reddit communities and so on and so forth and other features. But undeniably, we found the most intriguing ones were the ones that were relatable. So adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse in this case. So this is a subreddit specifically dedicated to those who at some point when they were growing up were most likely molested or assaulted by their own guardians, their own birth givers. I barely call these people parents because they're not, as far as I'm concerned. That's very relatable to me. And then also to a bunch of these other individuals as well. So I'm not going to go too deep into any of these. I'm not going to read the posts again in any further detail than the abstract is shown, the preview, because if we were to go beyond the preview, for sure it'd be divulging all sorts of very deeply riveting and disturbing details. Okay. In fact, this line here is already crazy. So you see here, I was profoundly traumatized as a child and will never learn to function. Support requested. And then there's a, age and also the sex. I was blah. I can't even say that word. We're just 4 words in and I can't even say it. I was blopped nearly every day of my early childhood. Most of the adults in my life were either in on it or aware of it and took no steps to protect me. It ended just before high school. I was so broken and split off from myself, so detachment, splintering of the self into many different parts, that I started seeking comfort from men 2 to 3 times my age. Now, if that doesn't disturb you or shock you, like that's, okay. Men that enjoyed what happened to me and would talk to me about it just to get off on it. So basically, she's actively seeking out men who take pleasure in her pain. They enjoy reliving this girl going through all these horrible things that she went through from other men. They get off on that. That's so fucked up. I'm so accustomed to it that I just dissociate and let them. I dissociate from different things, not something like this, right? I mean, hers is sexual abuse. Mine is, it's like, I don't want to go in it. I'm past that point, right? I don't really want to pick it back up again. It felt like validation. I guess you could say I'm being a little bit cowardly or whatever. It's not. Like I've been there. I'm past that. I don't want to go back to it. It felt like validation that I was still appealing to someone after what had been done to me, I guess. And then I'm not going to go further. So, of course, if we scroll down here, there are lots of things here like filter by flare, meta, support requested, trigger warning, NSFW, not safe for work, memories. Whew, heavy ones. Second post, already heavy enough. Therapist advised me that I will never be normal. Trigger warning. Okay. So, oh my fucking God. It's been about a year and a half since the whole truth revealed. To cut a long story short, I was blood, vaginally and orally at 2 years old by my biological father and his brother. So father and uncle. Anyways, we're not going further, all right? If you go further down here, things get really, really fucked up. And the irony of this all is because clearly the reason why I'm here is because this is too relatable to me. I shouldn't... I don't think normal people go to Reddit and search up stuff like this. Anyways, about community, a peer support group. That's something I've been seeking on myself, and then I have found, and successfully because of that. That's part of the reason why I'm so well put together at this point. A peer support community, aside from the project and other things, a peer support community for adults who experience sexual abuse as children, a place to share our stories, experience solutions, and support with others who are close to our own age. We have spouses, children, full-time jobs, pensions, other responsibilities that differ from our siblings in their teens and younger. Okay, from our siblings in their teens and younger. Okay, so we can close that. That's a very heavy subreddit. So why don't we just do a little pivot here, right? Because not everything has to be so damn heavy. Another subreddit that we had ended up exploring, but that is still tied into the strings of sort of difficult topics, is deciding to do better. And how do we come to this point? Before we get over to deciding to do better, I think it's important to highlight that one of these threads here, so raised by narcissists, this is something that we covered in a previous video twice, and I said that's enough, I don't want to cover anymore. We're still here, but only in passing reference. And the reason is, somewhere in these rules here was mentioned that, of course, raised by narcissists, this subreddit, is specifically in one of the rules is, and we read these rules and went in depth on them, on some of them in the previous video. The point is, narcissistic parents are not welcome here if they come, especially people who claim to have narcissistic children. And so one of the things here that we kind of went in depth on was, the fact that children are inherently going to have narcissistic tendencies, but that you expect, or you have a healthy expectation that they will grow out of it as they age. Okay. Now that doesn't always end up happening, especially for those who are fundamentally broken to a point of no repair. And so, and some of these people will end up remaining in this sort of like victimhood mentality and being abused all their life. But they'll also, some of these will become abusers of their own. So there will be people who stay being harassed and broken down by other people without being able to stand up for themselves. But then there will be a group, a subset as well, that becomes the next generation of abusive, oppressive, very dangerous, threatening people. So what happens then? The question is, what happens? So raised by narcissists right here. Support group for people raised by abusive parents with toxic, self-absorbed, or abusive personality traits, which may be exhibited by those who suffer from cluster B personality disorders. Please share your stories, your questions, your histories, your fears, your triumphs. Significant others and friends are all welcome. So mods needed. Do you care for this community? Would you like to help us keep going? And there's a check-in post, and then there's more stuff down here. And this is very lighthearted. I thought this was really, really cool. There's a posting about we want custody. So they basically want custody over their child again. And that's really good news. Found out an hour ago and just had to tell you all, they won't be raised by narcissists no more. And it says down here, I thank this community with all my heart. May your journey to peace heal you all. Okay. So in this community as well, was also something along the lines of what? One of the rules that mentioned no having, people complain about narc kids or narc children. And if you are also, another one of the rules was if you are a narcissist and you are verified to be a narcissist, you don't just think you are, right? There's a lot of people who think, oh, what if I'm the person? No, if you're clinically diagnosed, all right, to have NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, you're not welcome here. Instead, however, they do offer you links to say, for the sensitive nature and the relationships that you may have to other people here, you're not welcome specifically to this support group. But if you're trying to change yourself and better yourself, it's not like we're gonna shit on you, of course. It's like we support you. We're actually very proud, and that I think that's a great thing, that you want to be a better person and you want to improve yourself and so on and so forth. And so in this community, during that link, they have inside that post of the rules, they link off to a different subset. And that's this Reddit over here, which was focused on deciding to be better. So deciding to be better is like a self-improvement. Well, right here it says about the community, a force for self-improvement, goodness, and togetherness that helps humanity eliminate evil. That's a little bit cliche, don't you think? Progression is key though. So if you have decided to leave the bad behind, this is the place for you. Okay, and I joined this myself as well, I felt. So join us on Deciding to Be Better official Discord server, goal discussion, give me 2 minutes, I'll boost your discipline. I feel like this is actually useful to just anyone, so I'm decided to be part of this. I don't think anyone gets to say that they haven't done anything wrong in their lives. Everyone's done something awful. Everyone has something that they can improve on, and I don't think I'm any different necessarily. So here's mod post, advice, journey, help, motivation, progression, and there's a Discord server here. So I felt like, and a goal discussion thread. I feel like I even want to see if I can join that Discord server as well. Okay. So that's a lot of stuff here. We can close deciding to be better. We can close raised by narcissists. Okay. And we can just accept the invite to Discord server here, deciding to be better. There's only 302 online, but there's 4,000 members who are part of it. Now, I don't want to go ahead and disclose too much of this. This may be sensitive, because there are people here who have acknowledged that they're probably not the best person that they could be. And so I just want to say grounds for warning, grounds for temporary mute, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to basically just close this right here, right now. Okay, take a screenshot, close it, and then we'll revisit this off the video. We're not going to showcase that. Very sensitive stuff, right? Okay, yeah, but imagine that. Imagine your abuser deciding to become a better person one day, and I know that's a touchy topic, but for sure that can happen. We've all been at some point in our lives, I believe. If you haven't yet, eventually you will be. Something will happen to you and you will end up hurting someone innocent. That will happen to everyone. Everyone's done someone else wrong. Okay, so here's another interesting subreddit. This one is subreddit anger, so r/anger. I think I might be going clinically crazy, not sure where to begin, not even sure what's wrong with me. And I'm not going to go any further into this. I'm not going to read any further, but I will say that on the side here it says anger, an affliction that is often misunderstood, leaves those. I'm trying to move to the side here. I don't want you to read too much of this person's stuff. I feel like it's too sensitive. I don't want to broadcast it for the entire world to see. r/anger is an affliction that is often misunderstood, leaves those who suffer from it in a limbo of social unacceptance. Find the support you need here. And of course, here is get the best of our anger. So this subreddit is for discussion of issues relating to anger management, free anger management resources. I wish I can go back in time to stand up for my younger self. This one's not safe for work, and I wonder why this might be, to be honest. Anger and shame that allowed people to walk all over me over the years, to get violent with me and push me around metaphorically and literally. If I was back there then, I would have fought one of those bitches, but I didn't know. Yeah, I hate when people take advantage of me. Why are people so fucking mean and evil? What's the point? To gain power, to better yourself. And the irony is, be a good human, help people out. I swear, what is wrong with you? Okay, I can relate to some of this when I was growing up for sure. Kind of past that, but I know where this source of anger is coming from for this particular individual. But we're gonna get rid of that, so that's gone too. All right, so this has to be the last time we cover anything from RBN. RBN standing for Raised by Narcissists, right? So this is the list of the rules here. No platitudes, generic motivational posts. Again, we covered this in a previous video. I didn't want to cover it again, but this is essentially where we were linked to what's it? The thing that we just closed right now about how people want to decide to be better despite being abusers. Now, ironically, also there's a post here that I thought was really interesting in and of itself, and it's that in this case there are narcissists that are becoming aware of their behaviors. So I was wondering if narcissists in general are becoming better at hiding their narcissism due to the recent popularization of narcissistic abuse awareness content and people becoming more educated on the subject. And you can see this one's driving, this question is, it's a good question. It drives a lot of interest, right? It's like this is a cultural movement now, right? People are becoming aware of the term quote unquote narcissism for sure. It really blew up, support group. And if that's the case, then definitely your abusers will be aware of these things and they'll be trying to hide it. And for sure. But I also think that it's a very messy thing to go around using anyways. Right from the very get-go, it's been very difficult to discern someone who's a narcissist from someone who's been abused from a narcissist and then has developed narcissistic traits. So in a lot of cases, you'll find, in fact, there are two narcissists, one that's a budding narcissist because they were once a victim of abuse and harassment to the point that they have become so low in self-esteem and self-worth that they start to develop insecurities that went beyond self-deprecation and into damaging and abusing other people and extracting validation from others around them. So the victim becomes the oppressor, and they're one and two the same. Same thing with the current narcissist, same thing with the future narcissist. The budding person, the codependent who becomes a narcissist, slowly from someone with CPTSD, maybe, gets not well addressed, becomes in a borderline personality disorder, displaying vulnerable narcissistic traits, and then goes on further and further into a grandiose or malignant even, possibly bordering into sociopathy at the very highest level, right? So ultimately, if things are not resolved, that's the kind of the trajectory that can happen. So overall, I don't think it's really clear at all that you should say someone's a narcissist and that one isn't, right? Because everyone's got certain narcissistic traits. Everyone's got some innocence to them as well. And unfortunately, now that this movement has blown up, and in some ways it's fortunate for sure, I would say it's better overall that people are aware of this, but it's also very unfortunate that it's also, and it's unavoidable. You can't avoid it. The moment something blows up, there's no fucking way that the people who are already taking advantage of these certain behaviors aren't going to become aware of it, and that there's no way that people aren't going to be, accused or mislabeled, right? That's just going to happen. That's just popular culture. That's what happens in society. We live in a society, right? That's that kind of meme going around. So I agree. More and more, so people here posting, right, sharing their thoughts. More and more narcs accusing non-narcs of being narcs, right? And there's so much narc going around in this single post, and it's only 2 lines. The thing with being one is that you see yourself as the victim always. I'm convinced there are a lot of them here figuring out how to hide it better, right? That's true. Ironically, I learned the word narcissist. I thought this was a really great post from my mother, from my narcissistic mother, who kept telling me that my narcissistic dad was something called a narcissist. When I finally looked it up for myself, I realized that they are both, in fact, narcissists, and it's conflicting with people saying narcs are aware, but I'm starting to think that some of them genuinely are not aware. Okay. I've had some recent encounters where I really couldn't tell at first with 2 people that I knew because they were really good at performative empathy and self-awareness. They were both obsessed with narcissistic content, and one of them even used to watch Dr. Ramani religiously. My mind was blown because watching Dr. Ramani has genuinely helped me so much. I don't understand what a narcissist could probably get out of content. Now, I feel like this person, Blue Hack, is quite, even though he's the OP or she's the OP, is kind of oblivious to the fact, again, the dynamic between the victim and the oppressor is really the same. Guys, narcissists and codependents, same thing, just in different timelines. One's just earlier in development, one's just later. And honestly, of course, there are better paths that can be taken. If someone gets their issues resolved as a codependent, they won't become a narcissist. Sure. But if they don't, there's a whole slew of things that can happen, and they can become a very awful person themselves. You've got to realize that many narcissists, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know if you want to be a little bit spiteful, is that narcissists abuse other narcissists, and they hate each other all the time. I'm an example of basically being in a household where my biological father and my biological mother were both narcissists, and I'm living in a household right now where the landlord is one as well. And in this entire neighborhood is full of them, right? It's a cultural thing at some point. So basically they all kind of lash out at each other. They accuse each other. There's all this like silent treatment, cold shoulder kind of stuff. It's all this kind of drama and status and me being bigger than the other person kind of thing. And it's definitely everywhere. And you shouldn't be surprised to hear that basically your abusive narcissist, the person you believe to have hurt you, at one point in their lives, they were abused and they only became the awful person, this labeled narcissist that you want to call them right now, is usually a direct causative consequence of them being once upon a time, that narcissist was just a regular person, a good, kind-hearted person who never received the love, the care, and attention, instead was betrayed multiple times, countless times, abused, harassed, until they became what they are today. So at one point, they might have been just like you. I feel like that's kind of lost. That kind of common sense notion is kind of lost. I think back in the day when all this psycholingo wasn't out there about abnormal and pathological psychology and personality psychology. We could just say, bad people were once good people, and good people eventually become bad people, right? It's a cliche holds true when we talk about, how, a hero who doesn't die eventually becomes a villain, right? Life is cruel, it's awful, it's tragic. After all the swings and wounds that you accumulate over time, you change. And some people end up being able to stick to their roots, and some people don't. And some people experience more tragedy and more struggles, and some people experience less. And of course, with more means that you have a high risk of just ending up being a horrible person as a result of the way life has treated you horribly. And that is actually the truth. It's not necessarily that all narcissists just are spoiled, because there's two ways to create a narcissist. One way is to spoil them. They've been built off a silver spoon and have had everything in their life given to them. But another way to create a narcissist is to just heavily abuse, harass, and destroy them when they're in their development, and not provide them the love that they were supposed to receive just as a general human being. So in many cases, narcissists were at one point victims of abuse. And I feel like this person, because I read through this entire thread, kind of misses that point. Icing on the cake was my little sister was informing me of my mother, my end mother, was watching narcissistic mother and daughter relationship dynamic videos. And neither of us understand why, since those videos are targeted at the daughters of narcissistic mothers, not the narcissistic mothers themselves. So finally, Snoot, this person here, says something that basically, it's basically what I've been saying. For your last paragraph, your end mother was a daughter before she was a mother. She learned this stuff somewhere. Doesn't make it okay, but that's probably why she's watching. And finally, yes, you're right about that. My grandmother is a huge narc, and I've never had much of a relationship with her. I've been no contact with my end mother for the past 2 years, but the weird thing is my mother is completely up my grandmother's ass and has never said a bad thing about her. It always seemed like she worshipped the ground that she walked on. Maybe she's starting to realize her own mother is a narcissist. However, I'm still waiting for the day to figure out that she's one herself. And then rolls her eyes. To a degree, I kind of understand where she's coming from, but I feel like that sassiness, rolling your eyes, is kind of also a demonstration of naivety, because I feel like this person doesn't understand how easy it is if you've been tormented deeply enough and you haven't found a way to escape. If you're trapped with a narcissist 24/7, you don't have any way to escape, or a borderline, or antisocial, or a psychopath. It's so easy for you to just succumb to being the worst version of yourself, okay? Because you have to fight back, because there's no way to escape. And the only way to fight back is really to drop down to their level, because anytime you apply any higher standard, you're inherently going to lose. Being a good person will always mean that you're going to be taking advantage of bad people. That's why we say a good person actually is not a nice person. A good person is dangerous and able to exercise on their martial arts, on their self-defense when necessary. And that feels like it's kind of lost in words here. So anyways, it goes on, it's a lot further, right? That's why she's watching. And parents always see themselves as victims, right? Narcissistic parents see themselves as victims. So your mother is watching the videos because her mother was a narcissistic mother. And she probably does not see herself as being a narcissistic parent to you, because she's so focused on her own mother's tendencies, right? So the focus of attention is somewhere else, so you lose sight of your own behavior. Very common. This happens with everyone. I've been guilty of that myself, so have my friends, so have so many of other people I know, right? When you are focused on one singular topic, you lose sight of basically your self-awareness and the way you're treating the world, the way you're treating yourself, the way you're treating people. So that's a very common theme, right? Focal attention. My mother had the narc to end all narcs. My mother even tried to make it a tie. Okay, and then I don't want to go further here, because I think that was the most riveting thing that really stood out to me. I feel like this is already more than enough for this particular video, so I'm going to end this one and start the next one. But it was a heavy topic, and I felt it was really, really important. Let me see how much this is, like 30 minutes in, I bet. Can we cover the next couple tabs? 26 minutes. So very quickly, I think we can, right? But anyways, it's so interesting to see that there's these two conglomerates coming together into a single person. It's a question we hear frequently: what's wrong with people today? In many different forms, and all are probing at increasingly obvious observation. Previous generations entered their 30s with families, houses, and a decade or more of meaningful work experience under their belts. They bought used cars, built small starter homes, worked their asses off, and somehow made it work. Their families grew as did their homes. They got better jobs, started businesses, saved for retirement, dressed pretty damn well doing it. Okay. Contrast that with the weakest generation, which can't figure out why spending $250,000 getting a sociology degree won't make them happy and provide them the standard of living to which they believe they are entitled. Millennials have extended childhood from 18 to at least 26 years old, when the big mean government forces them off mommy and daddy's healthcare plan, while they save nothing, own nothing other than $50 t-shirts and $200 jeans, and wonder why the system continues to fail them. And as it turns out, sharing a downtown loft with a horde of dysfunctional roommates, taking an Uber every time you need to travel, and using Postmates instead of doing your grocery shopping doesn't exactly create functioning adults. Plenty of blame to go around: helicopter parenting, participation trophies, lack of real-world experiences and work, whether having to summer jobs, and the systemic failures of higher education that have all played their part. Let's talk about the last one. Okay. America's modern education system, this is the last paragraph I read, I promise, where it failed to provide marketable skills to an entire generation, going on 2 now, while massively increasing costs due to even more bloated administration and taking on a host of projects designed to accomplish social goals rather than prepare people to be productive. This is not an insignificant contributor to our country's present sad state of affairs. Okay, very, very shocking to see this. I thought this was a completely different person. I'm being totally honest here. And yet I feel like, if we make some honest comparisons here, I really believe that it's very easily compatible. For example, the narcissistic mother might be something along the lines of what you might call a Karen, who's so invested in, being environmentally friendly and standing for activism and being very fake and fraudulent with her moral aptitude, and just being a horrible general in of itself, spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on things that don't matter, like luxury clothing and so on and so forth. And then this person who is abused by that Karen, that narcissistic mother, ends up growing up developing a very strong sense of discipline, responsibility, and so on and so forth, and frugality, which are, again, all the same things that I am very much in sync with. So I agree to a certain extent here. I feel like this is a bit more of a rant, unfortunately. To a certain degree, he's making a lot of broad generalizations, but in general, you could say that some of these were true. I would say that, I hope that people don't spend so much money on $200 jeans and $50 shirts. And there are a lot of reasons why people end up being stuck in their household, right? There's a lot of nuance to this, and this is just a blanket statement, which I think it's very fair to say that this is just an opinion piece in a blog, so it's a personal blog. So I'm not going to read too much into it. I think that he deserves the benefit of doubt here because this is a personal blog. But I was just shocked at the nature of the difference between this and what was seen in his post on narcissistic mothers. So that's something I was trying to learn about. I mean, who is this Parrish Miller? He's not a doctor. In fact, he's a very, very conservative person who takes a very strong stance against like vaccines, passports. He's talking almost things that are almost pseudo conspiracy theory almost. And so I was surprised. I was really shocked. I was taken back. And last but not least, so I wanted to learn more about Parrish Miller because he wrote actually an amazing article there on narcissistic mothers. And yet when I read that post there, it seems like a very single-minded and very narrow-minded perspective on a more complicated societal problem. Okay. Needless to say, that is my opinion there. Okay, I take it for what it is. Who is Parrish Miller? Narcissism. Parrish Miller is a writer and blogger. Has written about narcissism. Has a website called parrishmiller.com. Written about characteristics of narcissistic mothers. But he's also written about other topics as well, clearly politics and so on and so forth.